we have to make it work on paper first. And it doesn't for everyone. And I like, as much as people get so upset when they onboard and then it doesn't work out how they anticipated, it's kind of the purpose of onboard. It's like the filter, right? This is the filter to make sure that, what's flowing down the pipe and gets into the engine is actually usable. And if there's something in there that doesn't make it through the filter, that's good, right? Because you're not going to have a less than stellar experience in the build, and we're not going to be challenged to build something that doesn't make sense. It doesn't, like, if you can't make it work on paper, it's never going to work in the field.
Right.
So that's what that is the purpose of onboarding. We're trying to save you dollars, time, and a whole lot of negative experience by trying to figure out, are there things in this that need to be eliminated? Is there, potential downfalls or things, related to your land that pulled the budget in a different direction? We're trying to find the problem. And so I think a lot of times that's misunderstood. It's like, hey, I paid the onboarding and we'll be building any day now, when they don't realize, like, the onboarding process is determining the feasibility of what you're trying to accomplish. If you tell us you want to spend $450,000 and we can't make it work, I would rather if you only had this small investment to figure that out and allow us time to make necessary changes, or for you to make a different financial decision for your family, than to be 6 months into a build and encounter something where you have no option but to cough up more money, or, completely wipe something away from the home. And that's really hard. Like, I think some builders say that, we can always take it away, and it's hard to take it away. Because I mean, like, we're talking about like a required, like, we can't just like be like, well, we're just not going to build that one back wall, just have this open. It'll be an open concept. But I really want that to be something that people learn to accept, that, like, we are intentionally trying to make sure that we've covered all of our bases before you get into a contract, before you get a loan, before we break ground. And even as rigorous as we are with that, we still encounter some obstacles, right? So before the show, we were sitting here chatting, and you wanted to lean into, some of the importance of dirt work, and even beyond, before dirt work, some of the stuff that helps have a very fluid onboarding experience. But one of the biggest challenges, we've had this probably 5 or 6 times over the last 4 years, maybe more, but I can vividly recall 4 or 5 times where we showed up, everything's looking good, we send out a grader, and they dig that first hole, and then they find debris, right? What happens then?
So it's a multitude of things. I think first off, it's important to say that, like, we don't know anything about this land. So, and I think that people don't understand how much back office work it takes to set the table for construction, because every county has different requirements. Every piece of land has a different history. It could have been a landfill 30 years ago, and the person that bought it doesn't even know. So, we have a lot of disclaimers that talk about that. So we run into these things a lot, and not just with the dirt, but just with, in permitting in general. Any due diligence that's not done on the front end becomes our problem. So, and that causes time, and time is everything in this industry. So, I think that we do the best we can to assess what we're looking at when we do the site visit and when we do the grading quote. But there are some times we run into things that we weren't anticipating. And I think that a lot of people that sell land, when they log the property, like, they'll bury stuff in there. And so the more due diligence a client can do with their land, the better. And a lot of it, when you do a perk test and they dig holes, sometimes you'll discover it then. But the more due diligence someone can do of knowing the history of that land and what's under that dirt, the better. Because once we scrape and we find it, we might have had a quote where we were bringing in 20 loads of dirt. We figured that in order to build the pad properly, have proper fall, we need 20 loads of dirt. Well, if we start scraping and we find a bunch of organic material, I think recently we found, like, cinder blocks and old gas tanks, and someone had literally buried a prior structure under the dirt. Well, first of all, we have to pull all of that out. We have to haul it off, and all that stuff that comes out has to be replaced with good dirt. So we always try to be amicable. We always try to be fair. We stop construction and we have a conversation. Hey, this is what we ran into, and we try to find a way that's, you know, fair and makes it work for both parties. And it's a very, very hard conversation to have with somebody.